My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing. So, this is by... That's too big of a pen. Me... Name... Jeffreyson 4.0. So long. Okay. Me, name, Jeffreyson 4.0. Ooh, okay, this looks cool. Put on the pen and just read to enjoy it. Shiver. No, tremble, really, like a beaten dog in the face of cruel futures. Who are you to bite down on knuckles until iron blooms, lazy-like, in the confines of your throat? You passed out once in an empty bathtub, and the snow outside spun itself round in frantic circles, chasing their tails fruitlessly like the rabid fox, trudging through snow, damp wetness, kissing its slow, dull movements. Nobody ever came for you, so you sat bare shoulders, pressing quiet lips against the wall-tile faces, murmuring pleading whispers. But what they pleaded for, you don't know. Oxygen is blissful when your muscles seize in delight at its gentle touch. Sweet return and whole body tremors. You want to drown in the strange euphoria born of nothingness, woven out of fingers tapping the sides of the bathtub in a somewhat soft rhythm. The nothingness lulled by quiet humming deep in your chest. Blizzard worn, the rabid fox lays, its head down on its paws, nose buried in a white sea, foam bubbling by sharp teeth, and simply dies in the heart of a storm. This is cool. I like it a lot. Really cool metaphor with the fox that will figure out what we're saying. And I'm going to read it again. Haha, thank you so much. You can thank me once I've put legitimate analysis and care into your work, honestly. I find that means more, at least to me, to give than praise. Shiver. No. Tremble, like a beaten dog in the face of cruel futures. Who are you to bite down on knuckles until iron blooms lazy-like in the confines of your throat? You passed out once in an empty bathtub, and the snow outside spun itself round in frantic circles, chasing their tails fruitlessly like the rabid fox trudging through the snow. Damp wetness kissing its slow, dulled movements. Nobody ever came for you, so you sat, bare shoulders pressing, quiet lips against the wall tile faces, murmuring, pleading whispers, but what they pleaded for, you don't know. Oxygen is blissful when your muscles seize and delight at its gentle touch, sweet return, and the whole body tremors. You want to drown in the strange euphoria born of nothingness, woven out of fingers tapping the sides of the bathtub in a somewhat soft rhythm. The nothingness lulled by quiet humming deep in your chest. Blizzard warm. The rabid fox lays its head down on its paws, nose buried in a white sea, foam bubbling by sharp teeth, and simply dies in the heart of the storm. Untitled, but written by mynamejeffreyson4point0. So, in terms of analysis, sometimes I like to talk about perspectives. Because sometimes, or characters, or whatever, the different angles in the poem, right? And in this case, we have, you in the bathtub. This is one scene. Of course, says it right here. You passed out in an empty bathtub, and then this person passed out in the bathtub is pleading. They are alone, and their lips are against white tile, muscles seizing, euphoria born of nothingness. That's all. And then we have the fox, and the fox is like the snow outside, chasing itself, or spun itself around, chasing its tail, sort of fruitless, right? Hopeless, trudging through snow, damp wetness, its slow, dulled movements. It's unable to move, right? And then it also has its face, nose buried in a white sea, in the same way that our lips, or this person's lips, are against the white tile. Foam bubbling by sharp teeth. And an interesting thing is that the wolf dies. Right. And the question that I have to ask is, well, we're not going to ask that question quite yet, but it feels like we have a lot of overlap between the wolf and you, right? You in the bathtub. We also have the dog here, which seems important, but not sure how it connects immediately. But we have you, and we have the fox. And maybe we'll talk about the dog later too. You are passed out surrounded by white, right? This white, I presume, bathtub, porcelain, right? Surrounded by white And even, as it says, you have the snow outside the window. Right? So, even a reference to the snow being around you. Right? And then we have specific mention of the quiet lips, the face against tile, which is the white. So, face, again, is in white, right? And we have muscles seizing in the gentle touch of oxygen. Now, this line trips me up, because this could be saying, oxygen is blissful when your muscles seize in delight at its gentle touch, right? Sweet return and whole body tremors. This is the ability to move again, right? So maybe this person is okay, is the result of this moment. But then it immediately turns, semicolon, new topic, or new idea. You want to drown in the strange euphoria born of nothingness, right? Yeah, muscles seize and tremble when you wake up from passing out. But then, you want that euphoria of nothingness, woven out of fingers tapping the sides in a rhythm, lulled, right? Lulled, quieted, and also reminded me of dulled. But this idea of slowing down, often like going to sleep, quiet humming in the chest. And then the fox has a lot of these same things. It is dying in a blizzard. It does die. Face in snow. And then the conclusion is that it dies. So the muscles moving indicates that this person like wakes up? Question mark? From being passed out. But I mean, they've been awake the whole time. You passed out once. And then like they're coming to, they're waking up. And then like, but then it's talking about being lulled. So this kind of immediately made me think with this connection, like clear relation between the wolf or the fox and the person. The fox, their conclusion is death. And it made me wonder, does the person also die? And that's not me asking you, Jeffreyson. You might have noticed Drowning Devil not giving me a lot of context to their poem and me not asking because I don't like to ask and I don't like to be provided context, right? I find the most joy in analyzing someone's poem in having the freedom to go through it on my own with maybe context at the end. But I think I do the same thing in sharing my poems. I'll usually share something and then not explain it because I want to challenge people to interpret things themselves, right? And so I guess sort of the one rule of submitting your poems is to not tell me what they mean. And like the explanation of the muscles trembling, that's fine. I was already on that direction. But that's like the only thing is like, if you are giving me your poem and if I am giving you the care to read your poem, I only ask that you respect and not tell me what your poem means, right? But before we dive deeper into this and our initial idea of the fox and the person and what this means, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I really need to pee. And I'm going to run an ad. And you're not going to watch it, Jeffrey. Or anyone else that might be in chat. Because watching ads is bad for your brain. You become a commodity. Don't do that. Okay, I'm back. Okay, sort of. Still getting settled. I've been needing to apply chapstick like copiously because it's getting colder and it's very dry in the desert, and that means I struggle. Okay. Back to this poem, without a name thus far, by mynamejeffreyson4point0. And the question I asked at the end was, before the break, was, does this person die? And I think the key is in here, of course, in here, this stanza. Oxygen is blissful when your muscles seize in delight at its gentle touch. Sweet return and whole body tremors. Separate. So this says very clearly, like, this person is awake. You want to drown in the strange euphoria born of nothingness, woven out of fingers tapping the sides of the bathtub in a somewhat soft rhythm, the nothingness lulled by quiet humming deep in your chest. So, quiet humming deep in your chest, at very least, is breathing, if not actually making a tone, intoning a hum, right? So, I do feel this person is alive, right? Yet, they recognize now some strange euphoria from that nothingness, right? The euphoria of waking up from passing out due to lack of oxygen is real. Person who got choked out in MMA? Whoa, you do MMA, that's crazy. I used to do Taekwondo. I don't now. I would love to get back into it. You also have, you passed out once. And I think the idea that the pass out had happened before, like, once really tells me that, like, they're still alive. It's like we're talking to this person. You passed out once. That one time. I just said you passed out in an empty bathtub. This would feel maybe more final, right? But it's these little words that can give you an indicator through tense of meaning. So those are important to, like, look at, right? You passed out once in an empty bathtub, and the snow outside spun itself round in frantic circles, chasing their tails fruitlessly, like the rabid fox trudging through snow. So the way that you characterize the snow chasing its tail, right? It sort of does feel as though this person is watching the snow, seeing it, and then as they drift off into, like, passing out, maybe, this euphoria born of nothingness, it's this weird, almost, like, dreamlike thing, is how this feels. Waking up from a dream. The whole thing feels very dreamlike. In the way that you call Drowning Devil's poem soft, I would call this one dreamlike. So then you could see it as, the rabid fox being within this person's dream. And then as they wake up, as they return, the dream goes away, it dies. right? It's possible. Chasing their tails fruitlessly like the rabid fox trudging through snow, damp wetness kissing its slow, dulled movements. Nobody ever came for you. So you sat bare shoulders pressing quiet lips against the wall tile of faces, murmuring pleading whispers, but what they pleaded for you don't know. Oxygen is blissful when your muscles seize and delight at its gentle touch. So, nobody ever came for you. It does feel like this very important line. Sometimes lines stick out when they have this broad meaning, right? When, let's look at, some lines have very powerful statements. Nobody ever came for you. In its entirety, this line is like a poem. It tells the whole story. Nobody ever came for you. It feels important. It feels like it could be a title. It describes all of this. And it's dead in the middle of the poem, pretty much. And, I like to talk that there are a few really important parts of your poem, and it's right at the start, right at the end, and dead center. 3-act play. Introduction, climax, denouement. It's one structure, right? Denouement or resolution, right? Granted, you can have super bunch of tension at the start and then have that be a release for the whole thing. It can ramp up all the way to the end, but it's useful to look at it this way, right? Where regardless the middle of the poem, the heart of it is going to be important. So to have nobody ever came for you be sort of right in this section also signals to me just subconsciously that it's important. And this has two meanings to me. One is just like literally straight up, nobody came to help you. You didn't get help, right? Didn't get help. However, you have this running theme throughout the poem because of the dog and the fox have these very predatory animals, and in fact the fox is rabid, right? And it kind of gives this feeling, the fox is hunting something always. Of course, right now it's lost in the storm. It's not really hunting, but nobody ever came for you. Could, one interpretation, in addition to not getting help, could be that death did not come, right? That fox, that rabid dog, as symbols of death. Except this person was perhaps lucky enough that the rabid fox, that death did not find them. It died itself. That the dog, that it's shivering like a beaten dog in the face of cruel futures, right? That also feels like death. Maybe one way to look at it. Dodging death. Because you were left there alone. And these things connect, right? Being left alone is something that's very dangerous when you've passed out and could be not having oxygen, right? So that's one way to look at the fox. Death may be that someone has escaped that could not find them in the storm. Or the fox could be this dream, right? That is occurring while they are passed out. It could even be something searching, trying to find them. Or they could relate to the fox. The fox is, as an animal, as a symbol, solitary. That's like a fundamental attribute of the fox, right? I think. Wolves, we talk about like packs and stuff. Foxes tend to like go out and hunt on their own. And this could just dig into the idea of being like the fox, being alone, and how you are facing something very dangerous and being alone. In the case of the fox, it did not survive. In the case of this person, they were luckier. Another common thing for the fox is that they're like tricky or a trickster. The fox is very often used as this in like mythology, if we're talking about symbols, right? And when we're lost on something, we're like, what does this fox mean? Well, it's a fox. We can take some guidance merely from the fact that a fox in itself is a symbol, right? However, I don't feel like there's much of that aspect of the trickster. It kind of just is struggling alone and dies. And none of this is particularly trickster-ish with the person. So we might just have to discard that part of the symbol. Shiver. No tremble really. Like a beaten dog in the face of cruel futures. Who are you? You to bite down on knuckles until iron blooms, that's just bleeding, lazy-like in the confines of your throat. So this first line says, basically, tremble, shiver, hide like a beaten dog. Submit, right? And this is you. We're telling this person to do it. Who are you to bite down on knuckles? The knuckles that are beating you. Who are you to resist? Who are you to fight back? Potentially saying, don't resist. Again, before submit. Right? These are ideas. And of course, given the fox resisting, trying to survive, the dog fighting for its life, the person in the bathtub, it might be seen as this struggle for survival, right? Pleading for something, right? Hoping to live. Yet the very first line tells them to submit and shiver and tremble like a beaten dog. Which makes me wonder if this poem is sort of wishing that the person had the same results as the fox, which is like basically a very roundabout way of saying I wish you died. That's a potential interpretation. Or this could be referring to the fox, but it does say you. Right. The fox is never referred to as you, it is the rabid fox. You can only be you in this poem, the passed out person in the bathtub. And the poem tells them, do not fight. Right? So it does feel very sinister. I mean, in that I said dreamlike, it maybe almost feels like a nightmare. I think a lot of people fear not being able to breathe, this idea of being lost in a storm, not being able to fight back, and dying. Right? That's like... a lot of the themes going on. So that's like, I guess, some of my interpretation. And we talked about, or we mentioned maybe titling this poem, Me Named Jeffreyson4point0, right? And given that we have some of this like solitary, nightmarish hopelessness, this beaten, bloody dog, this fox dying in the snow, and this idea of being alone, if I were to title this poem, right, I do think if I wanted to pull from the text, which sometimes, you know, we pull the title from the poetry, and I'm not maybe going to add any new ideas to your poem or try to give alternate titles, but Nobody Ever Came For You feels like it fits the entirety of the poem, right? Could be, you know, in the heart of a storm. You know, the last line is the title, is something that I do sometimes, right? It could be tremble, you know, if we're doing a one-word title. Tremble. It could be snow. It could be... you could cut this down. Nobody. I don't like that one, actually. Could be any of these things. Pleading or pleading whispers. That sounds like a good title. I think you said that after the first one, after Nobody Ever Came For You. I do like that. I think that might be the best title I've suggested, but you could also go outside of the text and write something different. I gotta get back to poetry, man. I've only written 2 this past month. It's okay. The amount of poetry you're writing isn't... I mean, of course, if you want to write more, then that's great, you should. But also don't let the amount you've written be something of a discouragement. I think we go through periods of writing a lot, being very prolific, and sometimes we go through periods of writing just about nothing, right? I want to submit to some places. I haven't submitted in a while. Yeah, I've submitted for the first few times over the last few months. I've only been writing and reading poetry for the last year and 2 months, 14 months, I guess. So I need to get to more submitting, doing some publishing. No, it's not because I don't have ideas. It's because I'm busy writing freaking Winter Soldier fanfiction, Lamau. I mean, that's like absolute nerd. It's okay. Slow stream. Yeah, it's pretty much just been me and me named Jeffreyson4point0. However, they are new and have sent me this wonderful poem here, Penguino Man. which is maybe tentatively possibly named Nobody Ever Came For You, but otherwise is untitled. And then otherwise I just had Drowning Devil was in earlier for a little bit. New Man. But yeah. Yeah, Penguin's cool. Penguin has written lots of really cool things and sent them in. Notably the most recent one, Mary Should Have Aborted Christ. We had some very like back-to-back religious poems, but also okay, When God Burns. Y'all really make it look like we hate God on this stream. We don't hate God. Some of us do. I don't. And oops. House with People. This is like a horror poem. Maybe everyone's out for Halloween. I think that's the case. And I figured I would stream because at very least I get like we love God, what do you mean? We love writing about God, that's for sure. We had Avi who wrote You, One of God's Most Beautiful People. Religion's like so deeply entrenched with poem. Halloween is banned here in where did you say you're from? Jordan? Like literally government banned. That is wild. I guess it makes sense. Religious governments be doing that. Yeah. We're God's most beautiful people. Doesn't matter, nobody celebrates it. Yeah, I mean, I don't, nobody's life has changed. Yeah, I'm not a huge Halloween person, obviously. So yeah, I guess maybe if I were to title it, I would call it Nobody Ever Came For You. You can take that. I always like titles that are outside of the text, so which don't just sort of take a line, but that line seems pretty fitting for this poem. I'm not saying this is the title, but maybe, you know. Showed a bit of my family the poem from yesterday. Oh god, how did that go? Did not go well. Yeah, I mean... yeah, that's fair. How badly did it go? Got a lecture for having to respect religions. I told you that people definitely can interpret it as an attack on religion. But, I mean, I do think you engage with the topic very legitimately. I only showed my parents the poems I get published. It was fair. I'm unpublished. I show my parents some of my work, not all of it. I write a lot. So, Jeffrey, I guess back to this poem. Do you have any questions? I guess I haven't done much in terms of like critique other than maybe like thinking about a title. But in terms of this poem, do you have questions? Do you have things you maybe feel you want my input on for this poem? Or anything? No questions. I got nominated for BOTN. Something of the something this year and was so shocked and happy even though the poem was my least favorite. Best of the net? That's like a real thing, right? Hold on. That's like legit. Is this the second reading this stream? This is the second one. So this is the only, this is the last analysis. Which is why I want you to have questions to draw it out. But it sounds like you don't. I will ask, since it's your first one, do you feel you got something out of it, learned something about your poem or poetry in general. I know I didn't do much critique, but I don't know, I don't feel very critiquey right now. It was super intriguing. I like hearing how others see my poem. Yeah, and I try to be a person who will spend more time than anyone else with your work, because because most people don't look at poems for an hour. I like hearing how others see my poem. Yeah, it's the best part. I think I already read that chat. It's still amazing. So I'm going to read it one more time, and we're going to call it there. And if you're still okay, it'll go up on YouTube as a VOD, and the world will be able to see it. It'll be titled, like, untitled, unless you want me to use this title, by mynamejeffreyson4point0. And if you have places you want me to, link to, your socials from the VOD, if you send those to me, I will link to your stuff in the YouTube video description, and then, people can find you through that. It's not much, I don't get a lot of views, but, I want to make sure if there's a place people can find you, they can find you, right? So I'm going to read through your poem one more time, and then from then on you can find it elsewhere on the internet, right? I don't have anywhere to link my socials. All are me being unhinged. I don't want to scare them off. That's fine. Then it can just remain unlinked. And if they want to find you, then you can come back and be in Twitch chat every single day, being one of my good girls, boys, days, and fae. I'm going to read this poem, though. Really great work. Tremble, really, like a beaten dog in the face of cruel futures. Who are you to bite down on knuckles until iron blooms lazy like in the confines of your throat? You passed out once in an empty bathtub, and the snow outside spun itself round in frantic circles, chasing their tails fruitlessly like the rabid fox, trudging through snow, damp wetness, kissing its slow, dulled movements. Nobody ever came for you, so you sat, bare shoulders pressing, quiet lips against the wall tile faces, murmuring, pleading whispers, but what they pleaded for, you don't know. Oxygen is blissful when your muscles seize in delight at its gentle touch, sweet return and whole body tremors. You want to drown in the strange euphoria, born of nothingness, woven out of fingers tapping the sides of the bathtub in a somewhat soft rhythm. The nothingness lulled by quiet humming deep in your chest. Blizzard worn, the rabid fox lays its head down on its paws, nose buried in a white sea, foam bubbling by sharp teeth, and simply dies in the heart of a storm. An untitled poem by mynamejeffreyson4point0. Snaps for that. Lovely work, Jeffrey. And thank you so much for sharing. I do hope to see you back. I would really enjoy reading more of your work. And thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.